Welcome to our event, Bugs, Bees and Books, a day at Gloucestershire Archives. Thank you ever such a lot for coming along to our session today. Now, in a moment, you're going to be meeting John and I'm Gemma, and we will be running today's session. Now, just before we start, you'll need the following items. Now, if you've printed out the pages for this month's Passport to the Past, you'll be needing the special pages focused on today's session, and you can see images of those on the screen in front of you. If you haven't had a chance to print these out, please don't worry. A couple of pieces of paper will do instead. You'll also need a pen or a pencil. If you have coloured pens or pencils, those could also be useful, but they're not essential. Now, if it is your parent's name on the screen, it would be great if you could change it to your name instead. First name only, please, just so that if you want to ask questions or, we want to chat to you, then we can do that. Finally, if you would like to ask questions, you can do this at any time by raising your hand, or you can type it into chat. The rest of the time, we ask yourself to please put yourself on mute. Just to say that the chat isn't going to be monitored for the entire session. So if you do pop up a question and someone doesn't get back immediately, don't worry, we will eventually get to it, I promise. And also just to say that a couple of the videos we're going to be showing you are going to be pre-recorded. So obviously you won't be able to stop the person and ask questions. But again, if there is something, then please do ask us at the end of the videos. We're going to be filming this session as always. So if you don't want to appear on it, please switch off your camera and mute yourself. We're now going to just allow you a minute or two to gather up anything that you need for the session. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I hope you managed to gather up anything you need for today's session. So as always, we're going to start off by saying a big group hello to each other. So if you'd like to take yourself off mute, I'm going to count to 3 and then we'll say a big hello and give everyone a big wave. Okay, everyone unmuted? All right, so 1, 2, 3. Hello!
Hello!
Hello! Brilliant, it's great to see you all. Okay, so what are we going to be doing today? Well, we've got a really great session for you. We're going to be telling you a little bit about Gloucestershire Archives. Now, Gloucestershire Archives is where we've been doing these sessions from over the last few months. I know some of you are recognised from previously. So we're going to be telling you about why it's so brilliant to work where we do. And we've picked out some of the choicest bits to tell you about. So first of all, we're going to tell you a little bit about where we're based, and we're going to be showing you a really cool online resource that you can use to look at local areas. We're also going to be learning about some of the challenges of looking after the unique records that we have here at the archives. Particularly, we're going to be hearing from Rachel, the bug lady, who's going to be telling us about unwanted pests in the building. We're going to be meeting a beekeeper, and Ali will be telling us all about how we look after bees here at the archives. And finally, we're going to be hearing from the Shadow, Gloucestershire's mysterious highwayman. So we've got a really great session for you today. Okay, so we're now going to be moving on. We're going to be having John on next, who's going to be telling you a little bit about where we're based.
Hi everybody, how you doing? All right. My name's John. I work here at the archives, and I'm going to do this little bit of a session about for you for where we are and where to find us. I'm assuming we all pretty much know where Gloucester is. It's in the southwest of England, and if you follow up from Cornwall, meet Wales, and you get to a little triangle at the top, that's where we are. Okay, we're quite a famous city. We've been quite an important city for a long time, since the Roman period. We've had Roman forts here. We've had Saxon palaces. We've had all sorts of things. We're a really great little area, fantastic, on the edge of the Cotswolds. The archives here where we are actually in Kingsholm, which is to the north of Gloucester, only about 1 kilometre away, so it's not too far. You might know that because it's the home of the Cherry and Whites, the Gloucester Rugby Club, who are our famous rugby club, and we all adore rugby around here, so we all follow them avidly. Okay, so we're going to look at a little bit about where we are in the area. But first off, we'll just do some of this, but what do we do? What do we do here? Well, we look after the written records of the county. So this is all the things that have been written down in past. It can be maps, photographs as well. Some of our documents are really old. They're hundreds of years old. Some, however, are brand new, like this recording. We'll keep this. So it's somewhere in a digital format. Now, we look after all these. We keep them in what we call strong rooms, okay? And they are all looked after. They're in great environmental conditions, so they'll last a long time. They'll probably last longer than some of the digital material we have. But, you know, we're learning about doing that all the time. So people can come in and look at these records if they're interested in local history or family history, and that's great. You know, it's a really interesting subject. And so people can come over all over the world. We've had people from Japan, Australia, all over the place coming to look at our records. Recently, we've had a great makeover, we've had a sort of almost like a new build, and it's allowed us to expand a lot and do lots more interesting things. So you can see in the picture there, that's our new front door. It's a lot better than our old front door. And as well as that, we've been able to put gardens in. We've now got a community garden, and again, we've got our own beehives now, which is fantastic in the city here. We're a bee-friendly city, and actually we have just produced our own jars of honey, so that's something we can always look forward to eating. It's great. So part of our work is to tell people all about us, so they can, if they need to, come and see us, okay? And they can learn about the history of Gloucester and Gloucestershire, because this is what we're based. We know we have some records elsewhere, but we're mainly really focused on the county of Gloucester and actually on the city of Gloucester. In this, you can have people coming from abroad looking at their family history, you know, and they can be miles away, and then their families can move in and out of the city. It's really interesting, fascinating work. And we also make learning resources for schools and families, such as this one we're going to do today. Now, we are going to have a little look now at a great website which you can use. It's called Know Your Place. Okay, and basically you can see the web address there, okay, and you can actually go on that, and there'll be web address we put on the chat for you. Okay, so here's the website. It's all free to use, and it's all totally about maps, okay, and maps are fantastic. Okay, so if you go onto this website, okay, the first thing you do, scroll down, and you'll see some places there on the left-hand side. That's the places that are on this website. You need to pick your sort of right area. So today we'll go into Gloucestershire, we'll click on that, and we'll see what happens. What's great about this website, okay, is it's a comparative site. So you can look at old maps and a modern map, so you can see where you are. It's fantastic. There's the map come up. You see on the left-hand side, it's quite an odd map there. On the right-hand side, it looks a bit newer. You can also there's various layers on this called community layers, okay? And you can see those little green diamonds there. You know, to start off with, if you I'll just click on that one there, and what it does, it brings you up a little illustration or a bit of information about that little hotspot. Okay, we won't do too much of that today. I'll let you explore that yourselves because it's great fun to do. I'll just shut this one down. Right, what's great about this site? Well, look at it. On the right-hand side, you can see some things there. So you get help information, base maps, information layers. Okay, we'll click onto the base map today because that's the most fun one, I think it is anyway. So straight away, you'll see there's two sort of columns there. There's something saying a comparison map and a main map. Now the comparison map is this map on the right-hand side over here. The main map is the larger one there. What's brilliant about this, if you watch my cursor, I'll move it onto that little middle thing, and look, I can slide it back and forth across. So that shows you an old map, and then you can put the new map on top. And I love maps anyway, and I think you probably will. This is such a fantastic feature to play with. You can also move around. Okay, so we'll, in a minute, I'll ask you somebody to say where they live, like a village or a town, and we'll try and find it. Okay, at the moment, I'll just show you where we are. So if I scroll up here, there, and right in the middle there is where it says Clarence Row, and I'll move the mouse, is where we are. We're on the building. This is where the record archives are. Okay, now watch, let's see what's there. The map on the left at the moment is 1881. So let's have a slide across. What was there? There's no archives, but what's there instead? It's a nursery. And this isn't a nursery to look after children. This is the nursery where they grew plants. And we know a little bit about this nursery. We know it's owned by somebody called Wheeler. They're quite a famous growers in Gloucester. There was also an iron foundry where they made things in iron just above us there. So this site is really, really interesting. Okay, so on that left-hand side, we've got the 1881. If you have a look on the right, okay, and click on where it says comparison maps, you can then see there's lots of other maps we could look at. Not all of them for Gloucester on this one, some of Gloucestershire. Let's have a look at this one. There's this one here, it says 1840 pre-Gloucestershire enclosure maps. And these are really early type of map. I'll click on it and we'll see what's there. Very little at first. So let me scroll up. And I'll zoom out a little bit. And you can see this is an old map of Gloucester. That's the north bit. There's Kingsholm, which we're talking about today. Okay, and for those of you who know Kingsholm, there's a funny building up at Kingsholm Road, the old turnpike house, that's there. I'll slide that across so you can see it, that's where it is. Okay, and because we were talking about rugby a minute ago, here we go, Kingsholm Rugby Ground, but just there, look. So we know that was the man's name who owned it at the time. So this is a fantastic resource that you can all play around with. Okay, I love it. I spend a lot of time on this, both for work and also for fun, because you know maps are fantastic things. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, does anybody want to use the chat feature to say the name of your village, and we'll see if we can find it. Who's going to come up first, we think? Here you go. Gloucester. So, okay, Charlie, whereabouts in Gloucester roughly? Is it Kingsholm? Is it Abbeydale? Something like that? Salt Spring from Austin and Max. I think that's Canada, isn't it? We can't go as far as Canada, I'm afraid, guys. But you never know. If you ask your local authorities, they might invest in this sort of system. I would imagine it's really interesting where you are. Sandhurst. Okay, Charlie's got Sandhurst. Okay, let's go and find Sandhurst. Sandhurst Lane. The easiest way to do that, start off with on the modern map. So we're roughly in the Kingsholm area anyway. So I'll scroll up, and there you go. Sandhurst Lane starts at the bottom, runs all the way up. All the way, we know it's a nice long lane, isn't it? Okay, so I'll just zoom in on that map for you and we'll look at the enclosure map again. Sometimes it takes a little time, but there you go. See, that's the old Sandhurst Lane there. Where it runs out at the top, it means it's not part of the Gloucester enclosure map. So this is something you have to be wary about with maps, because sometimes they will go blank and I'm not sure why that is. Always worth checking, okay? So there's lots of things. Now, you'll notice on this enclosure, there are lots of numbers. Well, these actually link to a book. So you could actually look at, say, for example, here we go, plot number 48 there. I'm just circling it now. You could go and look in the book and it would tell you who owned that plot and what it was used for. So there's lots of fun things. Okay, so that's Sandhurst roughly, this is actually a map, I know this one, it's a bit earlier, it's about 1790, I think. Let's have a look at a bit of a more modern map. So if we scroll up there, let's have a look at this one. It's the 3rd edition of the Ordnance Survey. So this is up to 1924. Now click on it, and there you go. Okay, zoom in, and you can see all these lovely houses and plots all drawn up, you know. So this is a fantastic little resource. I really suggest you go have a play with it. You've got the actual names, I got the email, the address of it later on. We'll see that quite a lot. And oh, George has got a stride there, so we're going to have a look at stride, shall we? So what I'll do that, and we can zoom out a long way. There's Gloucester. Let's scroll down. Okay, and there's stride. So let's zoom in on stride. There we are, focus on the railway station because I know where that one is. And let's go back to the early map and just see what we have. So this is going to go back to the first edition Ordnance Survey, which is 1880 roughly. You'll think about it for a few moments. And there we go. So that's what it looked like. And I'll zoom in on the station at Stroud. There you go. Not a lot has changed there, to be honest, especially not if you recognise this building here, because this is the lovely goods shed. So if you go on the train to London now or Swindon, you go past it and it's still got GWR written on it, on the side of it. So this is a great resource. I would say have a play with it in your own time, okay? But in the meantime, what we'll do, we're going to have a look, see if you can do your own map. Bear with me a second. This is all the fabulous IT people doing this now. It's great. It's not me. Okay, what I'm going to try and get you to do for a few minutes, if you have a look at this lovely old map here, it's lots of beautiful colour. It was drawn up by a mapper, a cartographer as we call them, called John Speed. And it was done in about 1610, so it's like 400 years old. Okay, he put a lot of stuff in, but it's quite small. It's easy to draw maps. You just got to think about where you are. You know, you can draw a map of your bedroom, your living room, your house, your area. But we're going to say, have a quick go, just a couple of minutes, try and draw a speedy map of where you live. Some of the things you need to think about, is there any big things near your house? Like, is there a school or a church? Is there a park? Is there a busy roads, railway, airport even? You know, is there a bus stop? You can put as much little detail as you like. If you have a look on the next slide here, have this, that's where you should be able to draw that. So design a map of where you live, okay? Not downloaded that, just use a bit of paper. Or if thinking, do you know what, I don't want to draw a map today, have a look at that lovely old map on the right and try and give that some colour. What colours do you think it might be? Okay, we'll give you a couple of minutes doing that and then we'll come back to us.
Okay, we're just going to give you one more minute and then we'll have a look at what you've done so far if you want to show us. Right, everyone, welcome back. So I know you haven't had loads of time. It might be something you want to finish after the session, but if any of you are feeling really brave, do you want to show us what you've done on the camera? Oh, well done, Charlie. So you went straight in for the road system, which is a really good way of starting things. George, just back yours one up just a little bit. That's brilliant. So I can't quite read what the writing says, George. What have you popped in there? Oh, okay, I can see. So you've got some of the key features like a church and so on. That's brilliant. Let's see. Is it Ruth? Is it Austin and Max? How did you get on? Oh, let's have a look. Fantastic. So you've gone for quite a different style of doing it with having the street view of all the buildings. And that's actually the way lots of people in the past used to make maps. So that's great. Austin and Max, I always get you muddled up. But how did you get on?
I'm doing okay. I'm nearly done.
Excellent. Are we allowed a little look at it?
I'm not finished yet.
No, that's fine. That's fine. If you want to show us a bit later on that, that would be great. Okay, well done, everybody. We're going to just move on now, but I hope this is something you can maybe come back to in a little bit. So what we're now going to do is we're going to have a bit of a tour around the archives. In a moment, we're going to be showing you a video taking you through the building. But just before we do, just a few facts about us. So first of all, we have 17 air-conditioned strong rooms. So that was what John was talking about the rooms where we keep all the records and documents. Our shelves, if they were laid out, would stretch all the way from Gloucester to Tewkesbury. So that's many, many miles long. And later on in the video, we're going to show you about our very clever stacking system so that we can fit as many documents on the shelves and as many shelves in a strong room as possible. Amazing, Ruth. Fantastic. I love it. Yes, the shelves hold around 11 million documents. The oldest one is about 900 years old and the most recent is only a few days. And we have a filing system so that it means we can find things quickly. Obviously, with that many documents on the shelves, we have to be quite careful about how we label them. We're now going to do a walk around the archives and our colleague Kate is going to be taking you around. Our building, and you're going to see that security is a really big feature of this video. Obviously, we have lots of precious documents, so we have to make sure that they're really kept very, very safe. So there you go. So Kate's going to take us into the public bit of the building. So we're going to go in through reception. There we go, and there's our receptionist pool. Kate's now going to take you out of the public area into the staff only area. So again, you'll see security is really tight, and she's now going to take you into one of the strong rooms that we've mentioned, and you'll be able to see how we have all the documents kept in there. And we're going to be meeting Ant, and he's going to be showing you how we have ingenious shelves that move. And in fact, despite having hundreds of books on them, you can move them with just one finger. There we go. Well done, Ant. So Kate's now going to show you how we get the documents and we take them out of the strong room and we take them so that the customers can actually see them. So there we have quite an old book. You can tell it's quite old. There we go, and we're going back into the public area. And this is into the search room, so people from all over the world come to visit our search room, they order up documents and books just like the one that Kate has. And we sit them in here and they're able to look at books and other types of documents. It's not like a library. You can't just take them out of the building. You have to see them there. And because they are quite delicate, we have these special book supports, which we lay them in so that they protect the spines. Some of the writing, most of it is handwritten and it's very difficult to read. So we do have things like magnifying glasses, and we also have all kinds of weights. You can see some there to hold the pages open without doing any damage to them. There we go. And the book that we see there, I think that one was about 300 years old. So we're now leaving the customer area and we're going through the staff offices. And the offices we see to the left, that's where a lot of our archivists live. So that is where the people who look after the books and documents, that's where they work. There's Malcolm working hard. And this is conservation. And we can just see the back of Rachel. We're going to be meeting her in a bit. She's the bug lady. And now we're just going to take you out of the building and into our lovely garden. Here we go. And we're going to show you one of the most unusual features in our garden, something you wouldn't necessarily expect to see, which is that we have beehives in our garden. And in a moment, we're going to be meeting Ali. In fact, she's going to be talking to you next, and she's going to be telling you all about what it's like to be a beekeeper here at Gloucestershire Archives. And she's very keen that you ask her lots of questions. Right, so we're now going to meet Ali.
Hello everybody, nice to see you all. So I am one of the beekeepers. There are actually 3 of us at the moment, and we look after 3 beehives in the Heritage Hub garden. And my job basically is to make sure that the bees are happy and to spot the queen when I can each time I inspect the hives, make sure that the bees are healthy and make sure there are lots of them, and make sure there are lots of baby bees so that the bees continue to thrive as a colony. And then at the end of it, really exciting, we can get some lovely honey, which we did a couple of weeks ago for the very first time. So we're very, very proud of this. This is our Heritage Hub honey from the local area. And so it's very yummy, and we're looking to sell this to people so that everyone can enjoy the honey that our bees produce. So a little bit about what I do as a beekeeper. Every week or every fortnight, depending on the time of year, we look into the hive and we make sure that there are lots of bees, and we make sure, as I said, that they are very healthy and very happy. If we can spot the queen, that's great. If we can't, then we make sure we see her the next time. And we use this lovely device, which is called a smoker. And you put some cardboard or some grass, some dry grass in this, and you puff it. It's not lit because the fire alarm will go off. You puff it, and then the bees are nice and quiet so that you can open up the hive and you can distress them as little as possible. So we try and spend as little time as possible looking into the hive, and we wear these lovely suits with these hoods so that the bees don't come and attack us. We do get stung sometimes. It's part of the job, unfortunately, but it's very much worth it to get the honey and also support the bees in the local area, because bees are in decline and we want them to really expand and to stay healthy. Does anyone have any questions for me? Sorry, my hood keeps falling down. Yes, Charlie.
How much honey do you think you have right now?
Right now, that's a really good question. So I showed you this jar of honey before. This is a pound of honey, so it's about 1/2 kilogram of honey. And we made 28.5 jars of this 2 weeks ago. So that's 28.5 pounds of honey. And that is from 10 frames that we have in the hive that are about that big. And that's just from one of those boxes of 10 frames. We've got about another 2 that are like that. So hopefully we'll have lots more, about 3 times as much as this whole lot of honey, hopefully in the next few months. George.
Are you ever afraid to go near the bees?
All the time. And I'll tell you why. It's because if I get stung, my hands or my face or wherever I'm stung blows up like a big balloon, and it's very painful. So I react quite badly to bee stings, which is a bit of a pain. So it does make me a little bit nervous. So I try and put as much as I can over myself to protect me as much as possible from the stings. But yes, bees are wild animals and we do have to respect them, and we do have to make sure that we're as careful as we can be around them. So yes, every time I go up to them, I am afraid, because I don't want to scare them, because if I do, then they'll hurt me. Any other questions? Well, if you want to put any on the chat at the end, I'd be very happy to answer them. George again.
When bees sting, do they die?
They do, unfortunately, yes. So they haven't quite evolved properly to make sure that they don't. So that's another reason I don't want to be stung, because if I'm in pain, that means that sadly the bee has died. You can have up to 40, 50,000 bees in a hive, depending on the size of it. So if you think about it, it's just one of several thousand bees, but at the end of the day, it is still a bee and I don't want to hurt it. So I'm very sad if I get stung, because then the bee dies. Right, thank you all for listening. And as I said, if you've got any more questions, put them in the chat and I can answer them privately. Over to you again.
Right, thank you very much, Ali. That was great. So we're now going to be finding out about creatures that perhaps aren't quite as welcome in the archives as bees. And we're going to be meeting Rachel, who's what we call a conservationist. And one of her jobs involves having to find out what bugs we have in the building, but I'll let her tell you more about it. So here's Rachel.
Hi, my name's Rachel and I'm one of the conservators here at Gloucestershire Archives. Now, you've had a chance to see some insects on the property here that we're really, really happy to have working with us. And that's, of course, our bees outside. But as a conservator, my job is to look after the collections that we have stored within the building. And there are insects that we are very unhappy to have around, because some insects, they're here because they want to eat our collection. So we need to make sure that we have some idea of how many insects are in the building and what types, and are any of them pest species that are going to damage our books and our documents. So you might wonder, how do we know what insects are in the building? Because every building, whether it's an old building or a new building, every building is going to have bugs in it. So what we do to keep track of the insects that are in the premises here is we put out little sticky traps, little blunder traps. When they're made up, they're little triangles, and inside there's a really, really sticky glue. And we put these little cardboard traps on the floors in the various rooms here at the archives, and we leave them down for a few weeks, and then we go back and collect them and see what insects have, or other creatures have become stuck inside them. This is a creature that you may recognize. I'll put him under the microscope in a minute. These little dots here are the corpses of silverfish, and they are a pest species. If you get large numbers of them, they eat paper. So that's something that we're very concerned to find in the building. I mentioned a microscope because some of these guys are so small, it's really hard to peer at them and get a good look at them. So on the screen here, I've got a tiny USB microscope that has a nice projected image of another pest. And again, it's a little bit hard to see what it is because it's only small. This is a wool moth. It's a very common species of wool moth. And they're a problem in our collection. And you might be thinking, well, you've got books, you've got paper, you've got photographs. Why is a wool moth a problem? But we have sample books in one of our strong rooms from the woolen mills in the Stroud area, where they've cut out little samples of yummy woolen cloth and stuck it in like a scrapbook. So the fact that we've got wool moths in the building means that we have to go and take a really good look at those scrapbooks, the woolen scrapbooks, to make sure that there isn't an active infestation. If there are insects in there eating the wool, then we would have to then kill them off by freezing them. So we have a way of seeing what's in the building, and then we can take steps to exterminate the pests if we have to. We get some other creatures as well, which aren't pests, but they're quite fun to have a look at. On this sticky trap where the wool moth has been stuck, we've also got a spider. Rather gruesome, but good. They're actually quite pretty spiders, these. They're shiny and they're red, and they're called woodlouse spiders because, like you can guess from the name, they eat woodlice, and they've got these really, really enormous fangs that are super sharp and very powerful so that they can pierce the shell of the woodlouse and suck out all the yummy juices inside. This is one of the few species of spider in this country that's also capable of biting people, but it only happens very, very rarely, and it's kind of like having a bee sting. It's not going to kill you or anything. I said I'd show you a close-up of a silverfish because you might know what they look like, but you might not. They're these little sort of teardrop-shaped creatures, and they do look silvery, and they move very quickly, so they do look a little bit like miniature fish. But yes, we don't want them in the building because they eat paper. I've got some examples over here of the damage that pests can do to archives. This is a folded up piece of paper with an elaborate pattern of holes through it. And that's caused by the larva of a death watch beetle. And it's gotten into a stack of paper, an egg has been laid, the larva has hatched out, and it could have spent several years tunneling its way through a book or through a pile of paper, munching away, eating all that nice cellulose of which the paper is made. And then when it's eaten enough, it will pupate and turn into an adult beetle and then emerge from the document and fly off to find a mate and continue the life cycle. But yeah, that's done quite a bit of damage. We can tell it was a death watch beetle by the size of the tunnels. There are other wood-boring insects that will eat paper, like the common furniture beetle, but they're a little bit smaller, so the tunnels are smaller. Now, up to now, I've been talking about insects, but there are other types of pests that can damage collections in archives, such as rodents. And I've got some documents that have been eaten by rodents. So all of these little bite marks and nibble marks on this document are caused by mice or by rats. They're not looking for food when they're doing this, but if any of you have mice or gerbils or rats as pets, you know that they like to shred up paper to make nice cozy nests for themselves. So that's what's happened with these poor documents. They've been put somewhere where rodents have gotten in and they've shredded it to make bedding. And the last thing I'll show you by way of pest damage is a really, really lovely old book. It's from the 1500s, so it's hundreds of years old, and it was stored in a church. and there were rats or mice in the church that have eaten about a third of it. But in this case, we think it was probably rats. And what they're doing is they're eating this for food, not for bedding. And the reason why I say this is because these pages aren't paper. These are parchment, which is animal skin. If any of you have dogs and you give your dogs those rawhide chew bone things, that's basically what parchment is. It's the skin of an animal. So it's yummy, yummy protein if you're a rat. So the poor rat has come in and eaten the top part of the book. So that's why we're not really keen to have rats and mice in the building. Well, that's just given you a little bit of an idea of pests in the archive, particularly insects, and why we need to look out for what they're up to and are they eating our collection. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. So what we're now going to move on to is how our collections inspire things here at the archives. But just before we do, I wanted to show you one very curious item that we have here at the archives, which I'm going to hold out. Can everybody see that? So that is a dried up rat. So when Rachel was talking to us a little bit about the types of pests, and of course she was looking particularly at insects, obviously rats as well are a really big problem. And what happened to this rat, we think, is that it climbed into a kettle in a shop in Gloucester and it got trapped in there. And then one of my colleagues went to collect some records and they found this. And because there wasn't very much air in there, rather than becoming a horrible sort of lump of nastiness, instead it got dried out. So there we go, but it's called rakes. Right. So moving on, if you want to have a go at creating your own bugs audit, you can do that. We're not actually going to stop at this point to do it because it's something that requires you to go and have a look around your house. You will find that lots of insects and things do hide really well in your house. So if you want to go and have a look around, I'd suggest you also try the garden, lift up pebbles and logs and things like that and see what you can find, and then see if you can find out a bit about what you've actually got there. So you'd be amazed at what is there. Go on, George.
We had a flea infestation.
You had a what?
Flea?
A flea infestation. Do you have pets?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it because of the pets? Yeah, they're a pain, aren't they? I had one too a few years ago with my cats, and they're very hard to get rid of once that you have them. Did you ever get bitten by one, George?
No, not really.
Well, that's good.
But my mum did.
Yeah, they're not very nice things to have around your house. And Charlie, did you have your hand up then, or did I imagine it? No, imagined it. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. So finally, we want to tell you about how our collections inspire information and stories. So our documents are often used to create stories about the past. And we now want you to meet a character who was living around the King's Home area in Gloucester about 250 years ago. And he was known as the Shadow. So here he is.
Look, it's only you. You shouldn't sneak up on a man like that when he's counting his money. God, I'm gonna shot you. Well, what am I doing, you wonder? I mean, do you know who I am to start with? Shall I give you a clue? Stand and deliver your money or your life. That's right. I'm your local highwayman. I'm called the Shadow, and I work around Kingsholm area. I go all other places as well. This is my favourite one, though. So what am I doing today? Well, I had a good robbery last night. I actually held up a stagecoach. Don't do that very often. It's a bit dangerous sometimes, because I'm not the only one who has one of these. But anyway, I robbed them. Good. So what have I got? I've got some lovely notes here. This is the old money. I got this one. This is from the Bank of Gloucester, and it's £1. That'll be good. Oh, this is a better one, though. Bank of Gloucester, £10. Oh, this one's a bit difficult. This is a Bristol bank. I'm not going to be able to use that very easily. But that's a good night's work, and it wasn't all I got. Look at this. Got some pearls, lovely pearls, and a couple of brooches. These things are okay, but I have to sell them. I can't just put that over the bar, can I? I have to sell them and I won't get as much money for it. So what I really want, this is what I really want. Cash. That's what I'm looking for. Cash, good cash. Look at that. There's a gold sovereign there. There's another one there. There's a couple of florins there. Really good. That's a good haul, that is. I can do that. Why do I want to take all this? Well, do you know what I want to do most of all? I want to go down to the pub and have a good time. I want to have lots of beer, play some cards, do lots of gambling. That's what I really want to do in my life. I don't want to go to work if I can avoid it. It's much more fun just doing this sort of thing. So shall I tell you a bit about how I work, shall I? Okay, well, obviously, it's a sort of, I don't always work on my own. I have a few friends to help me, but between you and me, they're a bit thick, I think. So I don't really go with them all the time. Okay, if I think there's going to be a big robbery, a big coach coming, I might bring them with me. Usually I work alone. So how do I work? Well, usually I'll find a nice quiet place, a bit of a long road somewhere, or I can see what's coming either side, or I can go up the top of the hill. Birdlip's quite good. I can see who's coming up from Gloucester and I can see who's coming from Cirencester. So I normally stay up there as well. And I just sit there most of the day, minding my own business till it gets dark, and then I prepare. First things first, I do have to load my gun. How do these things work? Okay, I'm sure you've seen one before. Start off, I have to put some powder down the end. Okay, then I have to get a shot. And that is a nice lead ball. That will go down there. Then I have to ram it all down. Then I have to get some wadding to put in the end. Okay, if I don't put wadding in the end and I do that, it'll fall out. Okay, but that's only about halfway done. What I then have to do is prime it, and I use this section here. So I pull that forward and I put another little touch of powder in there. Then close it. And then that gun is now ready to fire. Trouble is, it's only one shot. So I have to use it. I can't reload it. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to reload. That's why I normally have at least 2 pistols on me. Okay, I'd carry more if I could, but they're very heavy. These were great. You can't see my horse at the moment. I've parked him up round the side and he's tied up there. But I can hold the reins of my horse and this gun in one hand. It's light. Okay, that gives me this hand to take the money. Okay, or take the purse, take the jewelry, that sort of thing. I also carry with me a good sharp knife. Do you know why I do that? Simply because I can cut purse strings away and I can catch the purse. And also, if somebody says, "Oh, sir, I can't get this ring off, it's been on my finger for years and years," I can say, "I'll cut your finger off then," and you'll be amazed how often that ring will come off that finger. So when I've done a robbery, what do? Well, the first thing, I have to escape. Do you know one of the best places to escape? I come back into town, go to one of the inns. It's really good. I have my own little inn that I go to usually. I know the landlord, and he's very good. We have a bit of a deal going, you see. So if he has anybody rich coming into his bar, putting money over the counter, he'll send one of his land girls, one of his girls up to let me know. And then I can get ready and I can rob them when they leave the pub. It's very good. So I get free board and free food. It's fantastic. And I share some of the cash with the landlord. Okay, so it's a good deal for us all round. It's a bit dangerous being a highwayman, I'll give you that. Okay, I have to be very careful, have to look out for what we call the militia. Now they're sort of part-time soldiers. They're usually run by the local lord. Okay, and you know, if I do a bit too much robbery in one place, the local lord will get the men out and they'll after me, and I have to be a bit careful, because if I get caught with one of these on me, it's not quite so bad. They might think I've just got it for protection, but if I get caught with 2 on me, you know, pretty odds are I'm going to be the highwayman. Also, thing is, trouble with my horse, I have to paint it every now and then. That might sound really silly, mightn't it? But we use so many horses nowadays, okay? everybody knows what they look like, and you can recognize a horse by its ear or the way it holds its tail or by its colors. So what I will often do is I often get some whitewash, okay, and paint shapes on the horse, not silly shapes, just round ones, to make it look like a different horse. That way, if I did get caught, they wouldn't recognize the horse. So that's another way that I can actually do everything to my advantage. So I've still talked for a while. So I was talking about the militia. Well, if I get caught, what happens? Well, basically, I get thrown into jail straight away, brought up before the magistrate, who's usually a squire or a local lord, and they'll put me in prison. They haven't charged me yet. I have to wait there till the court comes round. But if I do get caught and I do get put into prison, sentence, usually it's execution. There's no other way around it for highwaymen. As soon as I set foot on the King's robbery, going out to rob, I actually have to have a good reason to have one of these, and it wouldn't, and I'll be arrested. So, and I'll get executed. So that'd be the end of me. But, you know, it's not all bad. It's quite good. I say I have a good life in the pub. I enjoy it. I have a bit of gambling, okay, a little bit of beer every now and then. It's lovely. Good food thrown in. I had some lovely pheasant pie the other week. It was really nice. So, would I recommend this lifestyle to you? No, not really. Not really. Well, of course I wouldn't. I want all the money for myself, don't I? I can do that. So let's have a think. I have to think about good tales. I told you I do rob stagecoaches, but not all the time because they could be too dangerous. But I did rob quite a good one up at the Frog Mill the other week. That was quite nice. It was off the way to London. It was the Gloucester Flyer, it was called. And I robbed it, and I got a fair bit of money off that one. But usually, who do I prefer to rob? Well, single people walking around, you know. They're walking on foot. I come up behind them with my gun, tell them to stand and deliver. They're not going to argue, are they? They're just going to give me the money. Right. I did have a funny story the other week, though. I robbed, he was a parson. He was walking out of Gloucester. I was on out by the King's Own Road up there, up towards Wootton. Not Wootton, I'm talking about towards Twigworth it was. And I was waiting for somebody to come along. I saw this parson come along, and I thought, I know, I'll rob him. So I robbed him. And as I rode off, I looked back, and he was all dejected, and he started walking back to Gloucester. And I thought, he's got to get through the turnpike gate. I've got all his money. So I rode back up to him, and I gave him a shilling for the turnpike. I thought that was quite nice of me, wasn't it? Very good, I thought that was. There are lots of other people, okay? Lots of other people you can rob. Tinkers, okay? Posh coaches. They're called post chases. That's all the expensive rich people ride in. They're quite good. Sometimes they have a guard on the back though. You have to be very careful because the guard will have a big blunderbuss. Now the blunderbuss isn't very accurate, okay, but when they fire it, it goes everywhere. Okay, so you have to be careful. You also get mail coaches, but you know what? I don't rob many of them again because they have two guards and they're also quite quick. Okay, I don't want to chase things, you know, it's much easier for me if I just sit back and let them come to me. Right, let's have it. You want a game of cards, do you? No? Okay, I'll carry on talking for a little bit then if you want. For sure, don't we? A game of dice. This is a nice, good dice game. Okay, it's called Lon Thomas. And what you do, there are three options. You can put money in, take money out, lose it all, or win it all. And you can just roll it and you can see what happens. Or dice. Lots of good dice games you can play, you know. You have to come to us one day and we'll show you how to play dice. What's it like being a highwayman? Well, it's okay. It's all right. Sometimes I get a good living, sometimes I don't. Would I recommend it? I've already said I wouldn't because I want all the money for myself. But do you know what? Sometimes I look over a field and I see a nice house with a man and a woman and some family. I thought that would be great. But that's not the life for me. I actually prefer partying, smoking and gambling. Anyway, I think that's about enough for me. I've got to pack all this up and get out of here because there's a stagecoach coming along in about an hour and I want to be ready in position. So remember, if you see the shadow on the road, just give me your money. I won't hurt you. Okay? Cheerio. I'm off.
Right, thanks very much to the shadow for that. So you wouldn't want to meet him on a dark night. So does anyone have any questions, either about the shadow or anything that we've chatted about today? Okay, if you do think of anything, don't forget you can always email in to us as well. So what can you do next? Well, as always, you can print out the passport resources. You can find those on our website under Learning for All, and you'll find there's tons there. There's not just the stuff we've been using in today's session and the other sessions, but yeah, plenty to do if you're looking for something fun and interesting. As John was showing you earlier, we also have Know Your Place, and it's definitely worth having a look on there and having a mess about. It really is a great resource, really great fun. I think particularly, obviously, if you live in an area which is covered by those maps, and you can see that the website is there as well. And then finally, if you do produce anything, please do think about sending it in to us. We've got our email there. You can find it on our website as well. We're always really interested to see your work. And also it's something that we can add to our archives so that people in the future can actually look at it as well. So that'd be great. Finally, just want to tell you about next month's session. So it's going to be called Frontiers and Pioneers, the worst journey in the world. So we're going to be finding out about Edward Wilson. So he is somebody who is quite famous in the local area. He was a young doctor from Cheltenham, and he joined the expedition to the Antarctic in the year 1910, and he never came back. At the time, nothing was known about this frozen land. He used the skills he learned as a child, drawing plants and animals he saw in the Gloucestershire countryside, and created fantastic sketches of the landscape and animals he saw in Antarctica. And these sketchbooks actually survive even though he didn't. We're going to be borrowing some taxidermy specimens for the session. What those are is stuffed animals. And if you are feeling artistic and creative, we're going to be having a drawing session. We're going to be meeting an artist as well. He's going to be telling you about how to do really great drawings, and we'll be having a go at that for yourself. If you are joining us, obviously, please have some pencils and paper at the ready. We're also going to be focusing on some of the skills and qualities that you would need as a modern day explorer. We're going to be asking you about where you would like to explore, what you would take with you, and how you would actually record your discoveries for future generations. So please do join us. As always, it's the first Wednesday of the month. As usual, it's 4 till 5, and we would love to see you again. It's been great seeing you today. And we're going to do finally a big goodbye to each other. So if you would like to switch mute off, and as always, I'm going to count you in on 3 so we can all give each other a big wave and say goodbye. So 1, 2, 3. Goodbye. Bye. See you next time.
Bye. Bye.